This record comes from Suryara. What follows is an observation. On the way back east, I stopped at a trade town that sits roughly in the middle of everything I'd been watching. Salt flat workers pass through here. Fishing families come here to sell and restock. Farmers from the eastern settlement use it as a stopping point on longer routes. Everyone passes through. No one stays long. I decided to stay for a day. The market here runs in the morning and winds down before noon, before the heat makes everything impossible. Loud in a specific way, not chaotic, just full. Voices layering over each other. The sound of things being weighted and priced and argued over. The kind of place where information travels fast because everyone is talking and nobody is particularly listening. I was sitting near a tea stall when two men sat down nearby. One was from the salt flats. I could tell from his boots the particular white residue that doesn't fully wash out. The other one was from the eastern farming settlements. They seemed to know each other, the way people know each other in places like this. Not well, but enough to sit together without introduction. They talk about the season, complained about it mostly. The salt flat worker mentioned the crust drying faster than usual. The farmer mentioned his basin's allocations had been adjusted. Neither of them connected what the other was saying to what they were saying. They just nodded, the way people nod when they assume they are talking about different things. A woman sat down with them, carrying the kind of bag fishing families use, flat, waterproofed, smelling faintly of the sea. She mentioned the water had been pushing further in than expected along the coast. The farmer said, "Yeah, the season's been strange." The salt flat worker agreed, and that was it. They moved on to other things prices, routes, someone's nephew who was apparently causing problems. Three people, three parts of the same picture, sitting at the same table, not one of them saw it. It happened quietly, the way things do when something shifts, in a crowd without warning. Voices dropped first, not all at once, just one stall, then the next, then the whole row. I looked up. Omynox, perched on the arch above the main market entrance, completely still, not a single wing movement. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you might have thought it was a carving. Dark feathers, golden patterns across his chest, bright eyes staring outward from its body in every direction. And the real eyes, the ones under the hooded silhouette, impossible to find, impossible to know where it was actually looking. Here's what I want you to notice. The younger traders glanced up, went back to their work. One of them laughed and said something to his neighbor. Couldn't hear what, but the tone was clear. Doesn't mean anything. The middle aged woman running the stall nearest to me stopped what she was doing, looked at it for a long moment, then started quietly packing away her better stock underneath the counter. Didn't say a word, just moved things somewhere safer. And an old man, sitting at the far end of the row, he didn't even look up. He'd already seen it. He was just sitting there, with his hands folded, watching the market, the way you watch something you already know is about to change. I asked the tea stall owner about it after the market noise slowly returned. She spoke carefully, the way people speak about things they take seriously. It doesn't cause anything, she said. People always get that wrong. It just arrives before things do, before droughts, before a harvest fails, before something shifts that nobody noticed was shifting. I asked her how far back people had been tracking it. She pointed to the back wall at her stall. A small handwritten ledger, worn edges, multiple sets of handwriting, different generations adding to the same record. My grandmother started that, she said. Her grandmother told her to. Omynox sightings, dates, and then, weeks or months later, what followed. Not predictions written in advance, just sighting records, and then the events that came after. Noted down faithfully by people who understood that the two things were connected, even if they couldn't explain how. I looked through a few entries. Drought, 3 months after a sighting. A water source failing, 6 weeks later. A settlement abandoned the season following. Not always disaster, sometimes just change. Significant, undeniable change. The kind that people look back on later and realize they should have prepared for. The salt flat worker, the farmer, the fishing woman, they hadn't noticed Ominox at all. Still talking, still comfortable, with their separate explanations. And I sat there holding everything I had seen across three environments, three communities, three versions of it's probably the season. Watching an Ominox still above all of it, completely still. Not causing anything, not threatening anything. Just already there. The way it always is before something shifts. I left the market as the last stalls packed up. Ominox was gone. By the time I looked back, no sound, no movement, just not there anymore. The old man at the end of the row was still sitting with his hands folded. I almost asked him what he thought it meant. I didn't. I think I already knew. He'd just look at me the way people look at you when the answer is obvious and they're surprised you haven't figured it out yet. In Suryara, there's a saying: worst part of seeing an Omynox isn't the night you see it, it's the month that come after, when you finally understand why it was there. I kept walking.